pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our next item on the agenda is the review revision agenda. Do board members have any revisions or adjustments to the agenda? Not seeing any. All right, with that, we'll move on to the next agenda item, the reading of our district mission and vision statement. Director Stevens, would you mind doing that, please?
North Wasco is a premier school district. We provide students a rigorous and relevant education with schools performing academically in the top 5% of the nation. That deserves a round of applause, huh? Our students are inspired by a talented, innovative, and highly effective staff that values continuous professional growth. Our district graduates citizens who are ethical and motivated to achieve their limitless potential. North Wasco is fully embraced by the community, reflecting its health and well-being.
Thank you, Director Stevens. Next, we're going to go into our student and staff recognition. I will hand it off to Dr. Bernal.
Thank you so much. So we do have a student recognition tonight. And I'd like to invite, I'm going to stand up, and hopefully this isn't going to ring on me. Is this going to ring on me if I move with this? No, just go silent. Okay. So should I turn it off while I move in front? Okay. All right. So, hopefully that works. All right. So I'd like to invite Zora Richardson to come forward, please. So, Zora Richardson is a Dalles High School senior, and I'd like to congratulate you, Zora, for winning the Oregon Distinguished Young Women for the class of 2022. The Distinguished Young Women is a national scholarship program that encourages young women to be well-rounded and strive for excellence in all areas of their lives. In addition to being the current Distinguished Young Woman for Oregon, as well as Wasco County, Zora is the current Dalles High School ASB president. She's a member of the National Honor Society and has performed with the National Honor Choir at Carnegie Hall. Zora is deeply involved in theater in her school and community and is completing a summer internship with the Original Practice Shakespeare Company. She will be attending college in 2022 to pursue a career in drama therapy. Zora will be representing Oregon at the national finals in Mobile, Alabama in June 2022. We are very proud of you, Zora. Congratulations. Let's give her a round of applause. Wait, don't go anywhere. We have a gift for you. Congratulations. Thank you. You sure can.
So if you have a daughter who is a junior or know someone who is a junior this year and they would like to get involved in the Distinguished Young Women program, they can do so by emailing Tiffany Prince, whose contact information can be found on the Columbia Gorge Community College website, or if you see me walking around the high school, she can stop me and get information on how to get involved with that. But it's an excellent program. There's a lot of scholarship opportunities, and I'd highly recommend it.
And then next, I'd like to invite our Director of Human Resources, Brian Schimmel, up to introduce just our new faces and new roles to our district this year.
Thank you, Dr. Bernal and D21 School Board. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about our amazing new hires for the 21-22 school year. As I go through this list, you're going to see almost 60 names. And the 60 is not entirely new staff members, but it also includes staff members who have changed positions and in most cases changed schools. Some have changed grade levels, some have, and schools. Some have moved up from a teaching position to administration position. Some have moved from a classified position into a teaching position. So lots of different, a variety of changes on this list, and I'm going to begin here shortly. Again, I'm really excited to have everyone. We've experienced a really good week of in-service, and a lot of learning went on, and making great plans for next week. You good to go? I'm good to go. Okay. So the first department, transportation, new to the district is Jill Ely, a driver, transportation. The next building is Chenoweth Elementary School. New to the district, well, first couple, Patty Carrillo, a lead secretary at Chenoweth Elementary School, Lindsay Omeg, an educational assistant, and Ricky Rayo, who is not new to the district, but is returning back to Chenoweth Elementary School as a lead custodian. Also at Chenoweth Elementary School, we're proud to welcome Brittany Watkins, grade 2 teacher, Holly Weston, who has subbed for us in the district, and now was hired as a grade 2 teacher at Chenoweth, Kendra Colby, grade 3, Melissa Rieger-Furler, who is not new to the district, previously served as a SELA at Dry Hollow Elementary School. She is now a child development specialist, aka in the counseling department at Chenoweth Elementary School. We also have Mairead Bean Kelly, who is also not new to the district nor Chenoweth Elementary School, but she is now the Dean of Students, new position at the elementary school this year. Diana Robertson is joining Chenoweth Elementary School staff as the English language development, or in English language development. She's coming over from Dry Hollow. Yesenia Marquez Berrigan is now a kindergarten teacher at Chenoweth Elementary School. And then Mia Howell is also not new to the district, but will be the reading specialist at Chenoweth. Next school is Colonel Wright. Miriam Quiroz is an educational assistant. Rosa Valencia Mondragon as well. Lacey Joseph, those three are all educational assistants. Heidi Baudelaire is the attendance secretary. Brenda Prophet is a new educational assistant. And Elizabeth Waters is in media at Colonel Wright Elementary School. Continuing on with Colonel Wright, teachers Sherry Ledusser is in kindergarten. Mercedes Chance. Katie Brody is grade 5. Alyssa Jones is a learning specialist, and Noah Neidlinger, is a dean of students at Colonel Wright. Welcome all of you to the Colonel Wright staff. At Dry Hollow Elementary School, we have Samantha Newby, Catherine Powell, who are both educational assistants, Allison Vassar, who's joining us as a social emotional learning assistant, Kalina Richmond, educational assistant, Bianna Rodriguez, Jessica Vodenal, Ty Rogers, Christine Tagg are all educational assistants, and Jeff McAllister, not new to the district, but is moving over to Dry Hollow as the lead custodian. Dry Hollow also welcomes this year William Cavanis in music, Stephanie Bayuklian in grade 3 instructor. Marnay Spouse, not new to Dry Hollow, will be the reading specialist. Giulietti is returning back to Dry Hollow as a grade 1 teacher, and Margaret Brewer will will be the Dean of Students for the 2021-22 school year. The Dallas Middle School, Ines Aguirre, Nutrition Services, as well as Karen Wallace-Savage joining the Dallas Middle School this year, and Lori Sam will be in the library in the media as a media specialist. Also at the Dallas Middle School is Jeff Carroll, who was hired to be a child development specialist, Deanna Hawcom, Dean of Students, Mary Salee, intervention specialist, Kirsten Benko, social studies instructor, Sergio Lopez Galvin, mathematics science. Last year, Sergio was an assistant at the Dallas Middle School, is now teaching mathematics and science. Duncan Wilcox, likewise, was an assistant, now a learning specialist in special education. Gina Firth is also a learning specialist, not new to the district, new to the Dallas Middle School. And Edwin Dunn is the new social studies for the 2021-22 school year. At the Dallas High School, returning to our district is Lynn Hellier, career and technical education instructor in welding and fabrication. Jessica Barker in science. Pat Clark, health and physical education. Billy Brost, as you have met, he is our new vice principal and athletic director. And Shiloh Newsom has transferred in maintenance to the Dallas High School. Wetumpka campus, we have Karen Pewitt, who last year was an assistant in the Transition 21 program. She will be teaching for us this year in that same program. District office, we have a new instructional coach. Uh-oh. Okay. Got to see all the behind the scenes slides as well. Very nice. That's okay. Katie Ortega, more importantly, Katie Ortega was a teacher at Dry Hollow last year. She accepted the position as an instructional coach this year for K-8. It does have a mathematics focus, a new position. Jenny Englerth has been hired also as an instructional coach. Her focus is English language development. Proud to say that Amy Hampton, who taught in the Transition 21 program last year, will be serving as our Director of Student Services. Sorry, Amy, tried to give you a different position there. And then Katie Stanton was hired to be a speech language pathologist across the district. And also Scott Whitbeck, who was presented here prior to this meet earlier, is our Director of School Improvement. I have ESD there. He is an ESD employee. However, we do have a contract with the ESD, and he serves our district full-time 100%. And of course, one of our most recent hires too has been Dr. Carolyn Bernal, our superintendent. So welcome to everyone. Excited to get started in the new school year.
Right, thank you, Brian, and on behalf of the board, to all the new faces that we'll have in our buildings, thank you for joining D21. We look forward to the great things you will be doing for our district and our kids. So thank you very much. I believe we don't have any student reports today, so with that, we will move on to the public comment portion. Before we start calling people up, I'll just read the brief info on it. Speakers will be limited to a 3-minute presentation for the issue. Speakers may offer objective criticism of district operations and programs, but the board will not hear comments regarding any individual district staff member. If you do have a specific complaint, please see me after the meeting and I can direct you towards board policy KLGBM, complaints for consideration of a legitimate complaint involving a staff member. Same goes for a commendation involving a staff member. They should be sent to the superintendent, who will forward it to the employee, his or her supervisor, and the board. As you come up, please state your name, and then I'm going to have my timer on today because we have a longer list than we've had in the 2 prior meetings. The timer is going to go off at about 2 minutes and 45 seconds so that you can kind of start wrapping up your comment at that point. And then we've also got a package of sanitizing wipes. So if you'd like to wipe in between people that are up there speaking, you're more than welcome to do so as well. So with that, we'll have David Bandel come up, please.
All right. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm not going to change any minds. It's about the COVID-19, the Delta variant. I just wanted to voice our families' support for District 21 and their compliance with the FDA-approved vaccine mask mandate. I feel it's the right thing to do. Thank you to Colonel Wright, who just got the K-12 online up and running. It's going to work for our 9-year-old. I'll try to be quick, I'm sorry. Look, if this happened 8 years ago, Logan was considered medically fragile. If he'd gotten sick, and this is no fault of his own, it would have been a trach at the very least. There's that population out there. My wife serves them. I have. It's a true thing. So anyway, I'll get off that. I don't think I'm going to change any minds. I could go on. This was preventable. It's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. I think children are resilient. They're going to do their mask. They're going to do the right thing. Right? Keep that positive vibe, and we're going to get through this. And I wish my wife was here. She's busy at work, but you can imagine. She's a hospitalist nurse practitioner. Yeah, okay, thank you. All right. And again, I think the children are resilient. I think this, at least what I see at Colonel Wright, is just the right prompting to do the right thing. I think they're going to reflect back a couple of years that they did do the right thing. It's the right thing to do. And I know not everybody agrees with that. Again, I'm not going to change any minds. It's this, my thanks to District 21 making it work, and Lolo will be back in person when he gets his vaccination, hopefully this winter. And Ms. Dossett's made it as easy as possible, so kudos out to her. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Next, we have Andrea Dorzab.
Thank you. Good evening, school board members and Superintendent Bernal. I am here tonight as a concerned parent and community member, and I have a couple of items I would like to comment on. As someone who works with various schools throughout the Gorge and has children in multiple districts, I am concerned by what seems to be a lack of fighting for our D21 students. Several schools throughout the area have sent out surveys asking for feedback about, among other things, wearing masks at school. In light of overwhelming feedback from parents that they did not want their children wearing masks at school, and even the possibility of losing student enrollment over it, these districts are finding creative ways to modify their school days to accommodate parental wishes and still educate children. I have yet to see a survey about this from D21. I know there may be challenges once the weather changes and it's too cold to educate children outside, but I believe these districts are to be applauded because they are listening to their communities. At last week's board meeting, I heard it mentioned that this mask mandate was an OAR and that there was nothing that could be done about it as a result. I would argue that this is absolutely not true. As a board, you could seek feedback from those who elected you, and you could offer that feedback to the governor and OHA, especially because they are overreaching their authority and have taken away local decision-making. Our whole state should not be held hostage to areas that have larger populations and as a result have far more exposure risk. Moreover, it is local taxpayers who pay for the public schools, and it is their voices that should be heard and listened to. The current buzzwords in education include equity. I would like to know how equity is being applied in this case. There is a lot of hype around the Delta variant, but even OHA's own website indicates that while hospitalizations might be up, it isn't necessarily due to the Delta variant. Hospitals, like most places these days, are understaffed, and the latest vaccine mandates for both people in healthcare and educators alike threaten to only worsen an already bad situation. According to OHA's COVID-19 weekly report from just yesterday, the severity and rates of COVID-19 by age show that in the 0 to 19 age group, only 2% were hospitalized, while 4 deaths are reported, there is no indication of pre-existing conditions or vaccination status in these cases. We know breakthrough cases are happening, and those who get them are often far worse off than they would have been had they gotten COVID through natural means. That's not my opinion, that's what the science is showing. Finally, as the wife of a district employee, I would be remiss to not talk about the upcoming deadline for the vaccine mandate. Requiring an injection of something into the bloodstream that is having massive side effects all over the world as a condition of employment is egregious and unconscionable. This will likely result in staffing shortages in schools and in an era of equity. How will this help educate our children? Again, children are at low risk of this disease. Yes, the Delta variant is claimed to be more transmissible, but it isn't showing itself to be more deadly. The world is full of bacteria and viruses, and even though we humans claim to be superior beings, we cannot escape them. We need to stop the nonsense and move on with our lives.
That's 3 minutes, Andrea.
COVID, like so many other things, is here for the foreseeable future. We need to stop trying to control it and humanity and live our lives. As a board, you represent our entire community, not just those you agree with and who agree with you. Equity means everyone, not just those who are convenient. Please, send out a survey, seek our opinion, and then follow what's best for all, even if it means going against the governor with civil disobedience. After all, well-behaved people rarely make history. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Next, we have Jennifer Gunter.
Hi guys, good evening. I'd like to recognize real quick last week when I spoke that it was very, I like to speak slowly so I can be heard. So I recognize and thank you for allowing me that extra time. Okay. The District 21 School Board has decided to force children to wear a mask based on science without any sound legal qualification to my knowledge. The state mandate assumes that the school air quality is hazardous to our children's health and therefore prescribes a mask citing science. I'll give you a copy of this as well. I will leave a link on here. The actual science would have been that the state of Oregon and/or District 21 actually conducted an air quality test that would consist of bringing in an environmental toxologist, industrial hygienist to do air sampling during District 21 classes. That environmental toxicologist would have determined if masks and what masks are exactly needed. All environmental toxicologists will tell you that masks and face coverings that state mandates do not work against viral or bacterial infections. Real science and what the law describes as respiratory protection and procedures do not justify the School District 21 Board arbitrary power in using these mandates and violating children's civil liberties. No one on the board, to my knowledge, is a certified environmental toxicologist and/or industrial hygienist. And no air quality testing has been conducted within our district. The school board's actions are an attempt to demonstrate dominion over civil liberties in violation of the U.S. Constitution and the school board's oath. I urge you, without haste, to act on my request for an investigation and proposal of intervention into Oregon state mandates that claim science. I would like this school district to provide those tests and the information concluded from such tests, and if such testing is yet planned in the future. That is all I had for that, but I do have something else to add that I'm noticing within other local communities in Oregon that you have letters from sheriffs, school board members that are actually presenting pushback. There's no fancy way to say it, to our governor. I would like to know where our letter is. And I would also second the survey that I think the people that voted you to these positions have the right to be involved in. That is it.
It'll hit the meeting minutes, so that's fine. Thank you again, Jennifer.
Yep.
Next we have Emma Pearis. I hope I got that last name correct.
Okay, let me get the thing pulled up here. Okay, so hi and thank you everybody. My name's Emma Pearis. I'm a primary care physician here in town and mother to 2 elementary school students. And first off, I think I can speak for all parents in saying that my appreciation for what teachers, administrators, and school staff do has dramatically increased during the pandemic. And as a mother, I can unequivocally say that my children do much better mentally, socially, and academically when they're in in-person school. Given what we know about COVID-19 and my desire to protect my own children, other children, especially those that are immunocompromised, their teachers, families, my parents, and patients, I strongly support the masking mandate in schools and encouraging vaccination for those that are eligible. This is a public health issue unlike any that we've seen before, and this, as the pandemic evolves, younger and younger people are being more seriously impacted. This is not something that can be controlled by only some people following the recommendations. And as a healthcare provider in the internet age, I'm pretty familiar with answering questions about things that sound very scientific on the internet, but don't stand up to more rigorous scientific research. And that there's a lot of misinformation and in some extent a lack of good information about some of this stuff. But I've never seen the level of mistrust that surrounds this issue. I believe a lot of that is tied up not in the science, but in the fact that advertisers benefit from us drawing lines in the sand and then experiencing a righteous fury when confronted with the other side. That doesn't fly for me. I think that when we come together as individuals and as a community with shared concern for our loved ones, that doing the right thing should be easy. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Next we have Paul Cardosi.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Paul Cardosi. I'm an internal medicine physician here in the Dalles now for about 25 years. I run the sleep clinic where I spend the majority of my time analyzing oxygen levels and carbon dioxide levels, and for the past year and a half wearing a mask. I'd like to focus my comments on a few points. I echo the sentiments of Dr. Pearis that the level of various streams of information, some of them patently false, I've never seen the level of penetration into society that I have recently. I think we need to realize several points. Number one, that masks are likely to reduce the transmission of coronavirus. They are not 100% effective, but the available evidence suggests that they are at least partially effective. Partially effective is important here. As the rate of transmission from cases increases, the Delta variant is 2 to 3 times at least more likely to be transmissible to other people. So that for each case, several more people will get it than before. With geometric increases in cases, this becomes very important. We need to remember that not only the health of the students is important, but also the health of their families. The more people that get the virus, the more family members can be affected. That's parents, that's grandparents who may have compromised health or who may not be able to get the vaccine, may be more likely at risk for death. Also, there's other factors. If those people in the family are exposed, then a lot of times they are quarantined and can't go to work. Oregon hospitals are being overwhelmed with COVID cases. The majority of the cases in the ICU are on unvaccinated people. I get this information from my colleagues at OHSU who are pulmonary critical care physicians. I get this information from my colleagues in Europe, where I also have friends who are physicians. This isn't localized to this country. This is all over the world. If those nurses can't go to work, then if you're lucky to have an open ICU bed, it now cannot be staffed and people cannot be admitted. If you're in a car accident, if you're having an asthma emergency, if you're having a heart attack, there will be harm from people not being able to get into the hospital. Hospitals are designed to be nearly full, and they don't accommodate a 30% increase in cases very easily. It's not only our healthcare workers that may not be able to go to work, but our firemen, our police, our teachers, our nursing home attendants. So, are masks uncomfortable? Yes. Are they hot? Yes. Do I sometimes get short of breath? Yes. But our oxygen levels are good. Our carbon dioxide levels are good. We need to do everything we can to create a climate where we can achieve a healthy and economically prosperous society. So we need to minimize this virus any way we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Next we have Phil Brady.
Dr. Bernal, welcome. It's a pleasure to be with here, and Mr. Aparicio and other board members. I am Phil Brady, resident of the Dalles, and I am the chairman of the Board of Trustees of Mid-Columbia Medical Center. I've also, like yourselves, being on a board of a member of a board, I appreciate that when it comes down to it, the board's main job is to make decisions. We listen, but in the end, we make decisions in the public interest. I also say that because my father was in your position back in the 70s as a member of the board of District 21 back then, and I learned from him that a board is constrained by many factors. A board is constrained by the laws of the state. The board is constrained by contractual relationships with the teacher unions, and so there's only so much leeway that a board has to operate. We are the same at Mid-Columbia Medical Center. Speaking for the board and speaking for the hospital, we are doing valiant work to try to keep the hospital working, to try and keep surgeries and other procedures available to the public. When those procedures are cut back because we don't have enough staff or because we don't have enough supplies, our patients become sicker because their treatment has been delayed. So the ability of the hospital to meet our mission is determined in part by the public health in our community. In closing here, I just want to say that we as a hospital will continue and be proud to be partners with District 21 because we both serve our community and we actually share a part of the mission statement in that we are both dedicated to empowering our community to be healthy and productive citizens. So thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Next we have Jane Corboy.
Hi, my name is Jane Corboy. That's pretty close, like cowboy with an R. I'm a family doctor, and I take care of patients at MCMC Family Medicine here in the Dalles for about the last 6.5, 7 years. Before that, I worked in Houston in a county hospital setting, and before that, I worked in the Texas-Mexico border in a migrant community health center. I want to touch on 3 topics. One is communication skills, the other is equity, and the last is community caring for one another and public safety. One of the things that I was worried about, I take care of people from newborn to 90s, and one of the things that I was worried about when I would go and see kids was, I'm sitting here wearing a mask. This kid doesn't know me from Adam or Eve. And are they going to recognize my smile? Do they react? Do they respond? And they do. There's tons and tons of information about how kids learn to communicate and how they pick up on all kinds of cues. Our tone of voice, our gestures, our eyes, all those things that we can do. So kids do continue to learn to communicate and communicate extremely well, even when we're wearing masks. And the second part of that is kids, school-age kids, love blinging out their masks. They come in with stickers and dinosaurs and kittens and unicorns, and it's cool for them, particularly if their parents have role modeled that and come in with the attitude of, this is cool, we're going to wear our mask today. The second part is equity. Last year, I had a couple of patients who were teenagers who were living in a one-room apartment with their grandfather and mother. They didn't have computers, but they got laptops from the school. They didn't have Wi-Fi, so they got a hotspot. They didn't have transportation, so they couldn't really go to any place that had good Wi-Fi, and they basically missed out of a year of school. We've got to have in-person school for our kids. We've got to have it in a way that's safe, because as you guys know, I mean, obviously you're on the school board, you know how important public school is for our children. And I just really want to congratulate you and thank you for making it, every attempt to make it as safe as possible for kids to come. And the last thing I want to say is really just to kind of echo what Dr. Cardosi and Dr. Pearis said about our community. Wasco County is at extreme level right now. It is so disappointing to me. I mean, 2 months ago, we thought we were done with this, but we're not. We're seeing 30 to 50 more cases a day. They're young families, people who can't go to work because of their infections. That includes, as we heard, healthcare workers, firefighters, and our families and our parents and grandparents of our families. And the last thing I want to say is the more people that get infected, the higher risk we have of some new freaking variant that's even more infectious than Delta, and we've got to stop it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Next we have Rob Schwartz.
Hi, I'm a physician. I guess a lot of us here tonight are. And I was going to talk about a few things, but physician, as my colleagues know, means teacher of health. It doesn't mean healer. And a good teacher asks questions, stimulates the mind, doesn't program people, and also brings props. So I've done that tonight. COVID is not going anywhere. I think as physicians, you know that. We're not going to eliminate it. It will never be eliminated. It'll be here like the flu. It will be less infectious to us, less detrimental to our health, but it's working its way through the population. I believe, if you'll fact check me, the average age of death from COVID is 81 years of age. The average age of the average lifespan of in America is 77. So that's pretty good. I too want everybody to be safe. I don't want people to die. I want people to have good health. So I think it's important as physicians that we teach people how to stay healthy, to lose weight, to exercise, to get fresh air, to eat fresh foods, to stop eating garbage foods, because the people that aren't aged and debilitated are people that are obese. That's the most critical value for this disease that we're going through. Like I said, COVID's not going away. When Delta's done, Lambda's going to come. When Lambda's done, something else is going to come. How long are we going to wear these? How are your children's going to wear them? So this is a good alternative for kids, for teachers. You can see people. It covers the eyes where you get infected. It covers the mouth. You can see people. You can express. Now you know what I look like. So there are ways to keep safe and not mask. And if someone chooses to mask or double mask or triple mask, that's great, do it. But there are ways to get around it and still be safe. I noticed there was a high school student in here 2 weeks ago, and what she said is that she's scared to come back to school. She has anxiety, and her friends have anxiety. Her friends have depression. That's not a way that we need to teach our children. That's not how you get stronger. That's how you get weaker. I'm going to talk to my colleagues just one more thing.
Timer's been going off.
1 minute? Okay. Medicine has not always had the right answer. Think about hormones that we used to give people that we don't give them anymore because we killed so many. So think about what you're saying to people now and not just the research that you see. In a year from now, the research is going to tell you something different. So keep your populations healthy by teaching them how to be healthy, not how to be afraid. One addendum is I had several questions the first time I was here, and you said you would address those at some point. I didn't see on the website any answers to CRT or curriculum or anything, so I don't know how to get answers to those.
Probably future meetings.
Private teacher meeting?
No, future.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Rob. Next we have Luke Webb.
Thank you to the board for allowing me to speak here tonight, and thank you to the parents who are in the audience for listening to what I have to say. My name is Luke. I'm an emergency medicine physician here in the Dalles at the Columbia Medical Center. I grew up in the Columbia River Gorge. I love this part of the world. I care about the people here, and I am in firm support, as are all physicians with robust medical training, of mask mandates and vaccines for those who are eligible. There is absolutely no question that they are somewhat effective, as Dr. Cardosi was saying, in alleviating the spread of disease. This is incredibly infectious, and the vaccines for those who are eligible that represents our best tool that we have. There will be Nobel Prizes that are awarded in the future for the development of this technology. They're safe, they're effective, and there's no question. And there is bad information that's being circulated. And I think it's really important for those of us who are physicians to come and try and set the record straight. This is not about me antagonizing anybody. This is not about me coming and lording my opinion over anyone. People, in my philosophy, is that people deserve to be happy. They deserve to live full lives, and a big part of that is being healthy. And what we're dealing with in American society and the world over the last year and a half is unprecedented in our lifetimes. There's no one here who's alive who lived through a similar event. They've occurred before, but this is new for all of us. And we really have to look out for each other. Wearing masks is a good way to be healthy and prevent the spread of some of this disease. COVID-19 is not a death sentence for every single person who contracts it, but even if it kills 1% of those who do catch this disease, and 50, 60, 70% of us end up catching this, that's a lot of people. And our hospital systems are being overwhelmed. It's terrifying. kids, as has been brought up before as well, they really do need the intellectual environment, the social environment that comes from being in school. It comes from socializing, from interacting with teachers, with each other, and it's a great opportunity for them to learn. They need it. I needed it as a child as well. And wearing masks is one of the easiest, safest, and best ways to accommodate that. So again, I'm in firm support of this, and again, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Luke. Next, we have David Cleveland.
Good evening. My name is David Cleveland, and I'm a resident of the Dalles. And I'm also the father of 2 school-aged children. And my oldest son will be a rising sophomore at the Dalles High School. And I'm also a physician. I am trained in family medicine and board certified in family medicine. I've been practicing for 17 years. I currently do hospital work, inpatient, taking care of adult patients in the hospital here in the Dalles. And just a couple of observations. First, I truly appreciate the board's dedication to the safety of our students, our children, and school staff members. My children have been wearing masks to school for the last year, at least, and they are tired of it, but they understand the importance of wearing a mask in limiting the spread of COVID to the people they care about. And they don't have trouble breathing. Their carbon dioxide levels don't go up. I have to remind my younger son to take his mask off when he gets home from school. He just gets used to it. And I think we all have gotten used to wearing our masks over the last year. My experience in the hospital, it's difficult to watch people die and struggle to breathe from a vaccine preventable disease. And I think we've all taken some trauma from doing this. I absolutely support your decision to enforce the mask mandate to help protect all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next, we have Josh Adams. Okay. Thank you for that, Josh. That means Sarah McCaffrey's next.
Thank you. I'm very appreciative for being invited here tonight. I'm really pleased to be seated among my colleagues. And also I want to thank you all for being on the school board and showing your dedication to children of the community here. It's also nice to see some familiar faces. I'm a board certified pediatrician. I worked for 35 years in primary care pediatrics. I'm recently retired and as an OHSU employed pediatrician at MCMC. And I just want to, I don't want to replay everything from the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, and I want to bring up that the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Oregon Pediatric Society all support mask mandates at school. And as you know, the Oregon Health Authority has mandated mask wearing. There are a lot of voices, and it's wonderful people are expressing themselves, but I think it's important to not be distracted by too many loud voices, and to try to keep your focus on the data. 90% of 2-year-olds in Oregon have received a majority of their childhood immunizations. 63% of all Oregonians have had at least one dose of the COVID vaccine. And according to an Ipsos poll taken August 13th through 16th, nationwide, they found that 69% of adults support school mask mandates. If I have the time, I'd like to just read an opinion piece that Dr. Dana Brainer wrote in the Oregonian 2 days ago. And Dr. Brainer is the physician-in-chief at OHSU Dornbecker Children's Hospital. The article was co-authored by Matthias Merkel, who is the chief medical officer and a professor of anesthesiology at OHSU School of Medicine. And I'm just going to shorten this a little. We're doing all that we can to ensure the health and well-being of those who come to our hospitals. However, amid the huge spike in coronavirus cases, the reality is that patients are waiting hours, sometimes days, in our emergency department before a hospital bed becomes available. Medical care is being administered in waiting rooms, conference rooms, and hallways, and at times severely ill patients are being cared for in our adult patients in our pediatric wards. We simply do not have enough space, staff, or resources to provide care to those in need. This includes our most vulnerable, precious population, children. If Oregonians do not take immediate action to reverse the increase in COVID-19 cases in our state, the consequences will be even more catastrophic than they are already. For the safety of our friends and neighbors, as well as our children, the majority of whom are not yet able to receive the COVID-19 vaccine, we ask of you, do not delay your child's regular checkups or annual vaccinations.
The timer's
Preventive
gone
care
off.
is key to overall wellness. Get vaccinated against COVID if you're able and eligible. When interacting with others, vaccinated or not, to stay 6 feet apart. And when our colleagues, we and our colleagues are here and will continue to provide the absolute best care to all Oregonians that we can, despite our exhaustion. We are very worried and we need your help. And I just want to add, I have some resources here with things that I've mentioned, and also that no practitioner here or anywhere, no board certified practitioner would ever recommend any care or treatment knowingly that would have any adverse effects. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sarah. Next we have Jennifer Morrison.
Hi, my name is Jennifer, and I'm a pediatrician here in the Dalles. Tonight I wanted to talk about the importance of allowing our children to have in-person learning this year and how we can safely achieve this. Our children have experienced higher than ever levels of depression and anxiety. When I speak to them, which is every day, the main reason for their depression is because they've been pulled from in-person school, from their friends, and from their after-school activities and sports. For their safety, we effectively removed their social network. And while necessary at the beginning of the pandemic, we now have multiple tools that we can use to keep students and teachers safe while staying in school. In my opinion, we need to do everything possible to keep children in school this year. We can safely keep our schools open, but this requires masks for all, vaccination for those eligible, and physical distancing where possible. Masks are safe and effective. There have been no legitimate studies that have shown any danger with prolonged mask wearing. And while we wait for the green light to vaccinate our children under 12, masks are our most effective strategy to keep children safe while in school. The Delta variant is rampant in this country and in this community. Today marks the highest number of pediatric hospitalizations in the United States since the start of this pandemic. I have seen more COVID-positive children in the last 4 weeks than I have in the last year. This variant is much more contagious, spreads very easily, and unfortunately is more dangerous to our children. We need to do everything possible to keep our children safe. I believe that we need to balance keeping our children in school to help their mental health with protecting them from COVID. And the only way to do this is with masks and vaccination. I strongly support the mask mandate in this school district, and thank you for keeping it a safe place for our children to learn in person.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, we have Anneliese Pantopoulos.
Hello, my name is Anneliese Pantopoulos, and I'm an OBGYN. I have lived and worked in the Dalles for 15 years. I have 2 school-age children. I'm here to speak in support of the mask mandate in schools to combat the spread of COVID-19. Our knowledge of COVID-19 is changing all the time, which can be frustrating, and at the beginning of the pandemic led to confusion regarding masks. However, for the past 15 months, the science and data have been clear. Masks work to decrease the spread of COVID-19. As a school board, your most important job is to get kids back into person learning safely. We know that this can be done safely if, and only if, multiple mitigation factors are in place. Vaccination when possible, masks, social distancing, people staying home when they're sick, and frequent hand washing. We know that wearing masks protects both the person wearing the mask and all of those around the person wearing the masks. But it only works when everyone wears a mask. This is not about personal preference or choice. This is about the health of our community. Wearing a mask protects ourselves, our family, our friends, and our community. Masks do not cause harm. Since the beginning of the pandemic, I've been wearing a mask every day at work. But even before the pandemic, surgeons have been wearing masks for years, doing delicate surgeries that require precision and care. As a parent and a medical doctor, I know that masks are a safe, effective, and inexpensive way to help keep our children healthy and decrease the spread of COVID-19 and keeps our schools open. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Anneliese. Next, we have Reverend Kirk Quinlivan.
Good evening. Thank you so much for giving me 3 minutes to express my opinions this evening. I'm guessing that everything that will be said tonight will be moot because you will bow to the state when they shut down our schools in a few weeks. I may be slightly different opposition than you're used to because I am not anti-vaccination. I don't believe it's the mark of the beast, and I don't believe you're going to turn into a 5G robot. There are those who are should be exceedingly concerned about COVID-19. I myself am extremely high risk, being morbidly obese. But my response was to work my butt off. Literally this year, I am down 110 pounds in the last 10 months. But I am still at risk. But oddly enough, no one is mandating healthy eating, sit-ups, ball slams, or vitamin D. My family believes in the public schools. We support, volunteer, and until recently, we have utilized the public schools. But I am violently opposed to anyone being forced to take a medical treatment that they are coerced under the threat of their jobs. In an age when we can't staff these schools appropriately during the best of circumstances, how will you face the massive substitute and teacher shortage that this system is going to create? We have created a substitute system that is easier for teachers to come in and teach sick than get a sub. We have made it so that they would rather come and be miserable and potentially harmful to those around them and themselves than stay home and get healthy. I will not call these insane mandates tyrannical because my friends in Myanmar and Afghanistan would laugh me off the planet. However, it does open the door for more dramatic government overreach that could spiral to tyranny down the road. We throw around the word equity, but if you can't be trusted to care for the values of people different than you, then in the realm of choice for medical freedom, I can't trust you to place the needs of my child ahead of your fear. The fact that it's August 26th and you have announced today, finally, that there is an online academy available is ridiculous. The staggeringly poor communication to families and teachers is unacceptable. If you won't stand for classified and unclassified staff medical freedom, we can have no confidence that you will stand up when the governor mandates vaccines for children. As also, I am baffled that you have not sent out a survey to hear the voice of the community like Duffer and South Wasco has. The board consistently refuses to hear the voice of the community. I am hereby committing to assist any quality candidate to primary any one of these board members that refuses to stand and stand for ethics and equality to any group or individuals that seeks medical freedom. In response to the terrible leadership and communication that I have seen, I have unenrolled my son from this district and will sadly be homeschooling him this year. That is not the best for my son. You clearly do not have the best intentions for students. You have the best intentions for your policies and procedures and a crazy governor. Thank you for your time.
Will you please restate your name? I didn't get it.
My name is Reverend Kirk Quinlivan. Thank you.
All right, next we have Christy Hansen.
Hey, everyone. Okay. My name is Christy Hansen. I was born and raised in this community, and I chose to move back here to raise my kids here. I knew I wanted my children to live in a community where others would be looking out for them. It's what we do in a small town. When there's a call for help, we show up. After one hell of a year last year, we're faced with another set of challenges. Only this year, the divide is greater than it's ever been. So much conflicting information, people's beliefs, political stances, fears, and emotions. We're seeing different sides of people that we've never seen before. I guess that's what happens when you get pushed to the limits. Our children are not handling this situation well at all. They need to be in school. Depression and anxiety for children is at an all-time high. What will you guys be doing to support children that are suffering in these areas? Removing parental authority by mandating masks is unconstitutional. Someone said last week something that really resonated with me, and I just wanted to repeat it again. There is no place for medical mandates in a free society. Vaccine requirements and mandates are based on faulty assumption that the vaccine in question prevents transmission of the pathogen. So when will the next mandate be? And what will it be? When is this going to end? Every individual has a God-given right to decide what is best for themselves. Our teachers have given their hearts and souls to educate our children. They deserve the right to decide what is best for them. In closing, I would like to know when you will be responding to all the questions that have been asked in these past weeks. I have been here for the last 3 meetings, and I haven't heard a response to one of the questions asked. There are many questions that all of these parents and concerned citizens have been asking, and I haven't heard a response or seen anything from you guys. And I would also love to see a survey go out. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Next we have Lindy Kunel. Not sure if I said that correct.
Good evening. I raised my children here. My name is Lindy Kunel. I worked my entire career in this town, and I am totally against mask mandates for adults and for children. I am totally against a mandated vaccine for anybody, and especially for all the employees of D21. I would like to know what kind of liability insurance D21 has when some of these people have these horrible side effects from the vaccines, experimental vaccine. Who's going to take care of these people? Eventually their insurance, once it's deemed that all their side effects are from these experimental vaccines, their insurance is null and void. So is D21 willing to sign for these teachers and other employees an assumption of liability form to support these people? It's very important. And on the masks are dangerous for all of our children and adults. UNICEF and the WHO issued guidance that emerging evidence from schools shows that masks and most other restrictions are unnecessary for children of any age. Swedish economists in the University of Stockholm and Uppsala conducted the most rigorous and comprehensive study. During last spring's outbreak, Sweden in effect undertook a nationwide controlled experiment by switching its senior high schools to online instruction while keeping younger students in classrooms with fewer COVID restrictions. Class sizes for the younger students were not reduced, and students who had been in contact with an infected person were allowed to stay in school instead of quarantining, as the CDC recommends. Neither teachers nor students were encouraged to wear masks. In fact, health authorities discouraged. Few citizens of any age wore them. None of the children who kept going to school died of COVID, and there was little effect on the adults in their lives. The researchers had access to health records of the entire population, analyzed the rates of infections and treatments of thousands of teachers and parents. The two groups were compared to groups with similar age children, 9th graders who kept going to school and 10th graders who stayed home. There was no difference in the risk of COVID disease. The unmasked teachers had a 0.09% higher chance of getting COVID. Less than 1% of additional severe cases for every 1,000 classroom teachers. Forcing children and teachers to wear masks and teachers to be vaxxed is not only unnecessary, it is dangerous. So, experimental vaccine. Experimental vaccine. Who here is going to volunteer for an experimental vaccine in their life? And especially not mandated. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindy. And finally, our last speaker tonight is Colin McInnes.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Colin McInnes. I am a member of this community. I'm a father of 2 children who are enrolled in schools in the district, and I thank each and every person on the board, as well as everyone in this room today, for being here. The part that's clear to me and by the way, I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and have worked in this community for the last 9 years and have been a nurse and a nurse practitioner practicing
in psychiatry for about 20 years now. I understand people are frustrated. They're tired. We're overwhelmed. And I think all of us have a shared and common goal, no matter what political stripe or information or misinformation you believe. And that is, most of us want our kids back at school, and we want them to be safe. It's super interesting to me in my clinic and in my daily work that many times this time of year, kids are, some are excited, but many are not excited to get back to school. That is not the case this year. Most of these kids are like, I want to see my friends. I want to see my teachers. They want some sense of normalcy again. And yet we have this very contagious and deadly virus still circulating around. If we want our kids to be back in school, and I think we all do, and we want it to be full-time, which I think we all do, and we don't want to have classes shut down or schools shut down, which I think we all do, the answer is pretty simple. It may not be popular with everybody. And the request for the survey, it may not, I don't know what the number would be. But the science, the overwhelming majority of the science points in the direction that wearing masks are safe. Wearing masks are somewhat effective. And getting the vaccines are safe. 170 million Americans have gotten a vaccine, at least one. None of them have died. 600,000 plus Americans have died from COVID in the last 18 months. And I don't care if they're 81, obese, skinny. I'm not going to pass judgment on any of that. If it was your mother, your grandmother, your friend, your child, that sucks. And I come back to the idea that our job as parents, as caregivers, as members of this community, are to take care of each other, to take care of our children, and do what's best. That's it. Good luck with the school year. We're going to need it.
All right, thank you, Colin. So I do have a couple of written comments, and I will read those next. There were a few comments that did not meet the deadline, so we will read those in September. So if that's you, please know that if you don't hear yours tonight, I will be reading them at our September meeting. So next, let's see, the one submitted is from Kathleen Wilder, and it reads, my name is Kathleen Wilder. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist at the Columbia River Women's Center, but I'm also trained in public health research. My comments today come from a background of science, direct research experience, and medicine, which has been from rural, academic, urban, and international settings. I also have worked with and personally known several CDC scientists. I believe in their scientific methods, the data they report, and the recommendations that they develop based on those data. I am here because science and research about COVID and how to prevent its spread have been repeatedly misrepresented in our community. I want to go on the record supporting the state and school district mandate for masking and vaccination, all in an effort to prevent further spread of the SARS-CoV-2 virus and protect our children and community. I have 3 points. One, most importantly, we need to get kids back into in-school learning. It is the most important thing for promoting positive mental health, increasing learning, and supporting low-income students. The data support it. Two, Vaccination remains the best method of prevention, and anyone aged 12 and older should get vaccinated. The data support it. 3, lastly, vaccination is not enough, particularly in the school setting where children under 12 are not eligible for it, leaving many unprotected or at risk. Thus, we need to layer multiple prevention strategies, like multiple pieces of Swiss cheese, on top of each other to close all the holes. We need to vaccinate, social distance, hand wash, and use masks. I'd like to point out some specific information from the CDC based on scientific data to support the use of masks. 1, we know masks protect both the wearer and others around them. They reduce what is coming in and out of your mouth and nose, and that reduces transmission. 2, at least 10 studies have confirmed the benefit of universal masking in community-level analyses. However, 2 studies have been improperly characterized by some sources as showing that surgical or cloth masks offer no benefit. 1 study was too small to make an actual conclusion, and the other did not have a true control group for comparison. 3, there are a multitude of data supporting the safety of masks. There are no significant adverse health effects for wearers such as oxygen desaturation or respiratory distress. This has been studied in children and adults at rest and during exercise, and even among people with severe respiratory disorders such as COPD. In summary, based on available data from reputable sources, I strongly express my support for the vaccine and masking mandates in order to protect our community, and especially the mental and physical health of our children. Kathleen Wilder. And our final one comes from Miriam McDonald, and it reads, Dear Dr. Bernal, in keeping with guidance from the Center for Disease Control and the requirement from the Oregon Health Authority, OAR 333-019-1015, as health officer for North Central Public Health District, I strongly recommend the use of face coverings in all indoor school settings for individuals 2 years and older. This includes all students, staff, contractors, volunteers, and visitors. As we know, at this point, children under the age of 12 are not yet eligible to receive the protection of a COVID-19 vaccine. This leaves them and others who are immunocompromised or unvaccinated at high risk for contracting COVID-19. Face masks, along with vaccines, physical distancing, frequent sanitization, and other measures are a safe and effective way to prevent the transmission of COVID-19. At North Central Public Health District, we appreciate the tremendous efforts the faculty and staff of D21 have put forth in keeping our students safe since the beginning of the pandemic. We will continue to work closely with you and provide updated recommendations as indicated. Sincerely, Miriam McDonald. All right, and that concludes our public comment portion for the evening. Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Any board members have any questions, comments on the items on tonight's consent agenda? Okay, we will be pulling out items B and C from the agenda. Apparently they're incomplete. So we will move those forward to our September meeting. Any questions on either item A, the school board meeting minutes from July 22nd, 2021, or item D, the personnel report? I did have one myself on those minutes. It says that we were going to attach Dr. Bernal's presentation, the PDF, or excuse me, the PowerPoint, but it's not included. So if we can just get that attached, please, so that when it gets posted, it's available. No further comment or discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
approve the consent agenda as presented with the corrections and revisions mentioned.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda items A and D, with A having a revision, which includes Dr. Bernald's PowerPoint presentation from July 22nd. Any discussion at all? Seeing none, we'll go to vote. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? Nope. Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to item 8 of the agenda, the board action calendar. Any comments towards the items on there from the board? All right, hearing none. Again, that's just a reminder for us to keep looking forward throughout our school year. Next item on the agenda is the school board subcommittee reports. And being that the school year started, I don't know that there have been any meetings. So is there anyone that has met or has an update? Rebecca?
Yeah. So we had our Education Foundation board meeting on Tuesday.
1 second. Director, this was sweet. We can't hear you. Just
Oh, you can't hear me? Can you hear me now? Yes? Okay. Thank you. The Education Foundation board met on Tuesday, and we have a fundraiser in the pipeline to raise funds for the classroom mini grants program. And it's going to be a fun one. We're going to be showing Back to the Future at the Sunshine Mill Drive-In Movie Theater. And unfortunately, it's on the same night as our next board meeting, September 23rd. But that's the night that we could get. It's a Thursday night. And you can buy tickets for that drive-in at our website, northwascoed.org. And there will be limited tickets, only 39 spots. So hope folks can come and support the Education Foundation. Secondly, we're going to be releasing our requests for proposals to teachers and D21 staff next week. And that will be proposals up to $500 per classroom to do innovative and creative things in the classroom. And those will be due in early October. So we hope that to see proposals come in from all the schools. And that is all I have to report.
Thank you, Director. This is quick. Any other board members have an update? All right, no other reports. We'll move on to item 10A and our new business and reports. We'll start off with the superintendent's report. Superintendent Bernal.
Thank you. So we are busily preparing for reopening next week. As you know, we will welcome back students on Monday and Tuesday of next week. So we've had a busy week welcoming back our licensed and classified staff this week for a lot of professional development. And what's due tomorrow, and I've provided you all a copy, is our safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan, and that's due to the state tomorrow. This is very different from what was required last year, which last year there were what they call blueprints. They were really extensive, lengthy blueprints that we were required to submit. And this year they have streamlined that process and called it now a safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of service plan. So we have completed that plan. We have it here. Much of what we presented last week is included in this plan. And then at the end, I also attached each school site's plan for addressing the student and staff health and well-being this year, and their plan of how they will be addressing that. And then lastly, we are finalizing our communicable disease plan, and that link will be added to this plan tomorrow, and then we will hit submit and it'll go to the state tomorrow, and then we will make the links active on our website so anybody can go to our website to see the plan and access all of the links that you can see in the plan. So, are there any questions?
I can't see Rebecca or
Are they there?
Dawn. Not sure if they have any questions.
But as I described last week, that all of what we discussed last week is basically required to be in this plan. So it basically is a transfer over of what we described last week is what's described in this plan.
No questions or comments from the board? Okay. I guess I'd just like to take a moment to say that I'm super excited for the school year to start next week. I think it's a great milestone that we're able to have our kiddos back in the buildings. I know my 6-year-old at home is super excited and looking forward to seeing his friends and getting to meet his new teacher on Monday. So I will be joining the traditional walk to school that morning. So if I see you guys, feel free to say hi. But be doing just like everyone else and walking my kiddo to school that day.
Yes, we are really excited too, and I think there's a lot of emotion and angst and excitement, and just I'm super excited to see kids back in our buildings, all of our kids back in our buildings. And as I said, our goal is to open our doors 5 days a week full time and stay open. So that's the goal. So hopefully we can do that, and I'm excited. I will be out at the schools all week next week visiting and be out there with the kids and the teachers and Jody. I'm coming to visit. So Sylvia, I'm coming to visit. So okay. So I'm excited. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Director Thistlethwaite.
Lost you.
I'm here. Sorry, I don't have a copy of that plan in front of me, but I did. Can you hear me? I feel echoey. Sorry. I did see the presentation last week, and I haven't had a chance to see the plan you're referring to today. But my only question was regarding the online option for medically fragile and immunocompromised children. I just wondered, what was the option this year? Is it going to be asynchronous? Is it going to be synchronous? What is that going to look like?
So we will be doing right now a CELIS it will be a CELIS for K-12. We're starting with that, and then we will be doing an additive model to that as we build that program. So to start, it's going to be a CELIS, and then we'll be working with Scott Whitbeck, our Director of School Improvement, and we will be adding some synchronous stuff to it as we build the program. So we do want to make it a robust program and add to it as we go along, but to get the program off the ground, it'll start initially as a CELIS, but we will build the program.
All right, any other comments from board members? Director Richardson?
From the other end of the spectrum, from Chair Aparicio, with a senior in high school, and I can speak for long ago being one here in the Dallas High School, so many traditions and hopes that they're trying to have this year as a normal school. I really appreciate the district's efforts to keep kids in school 5 days a week. And one of the highlights of these board meetings for me personally has been the student reports, and I'll be looking forward to hearing those as we go throughout the school year. And I'd really be interested in hearing from them, how's it going? What's it like wearing masks, and how are you doing back in school? So.
Yeah, as I stated, I think in my superintendent's presentation back in July, one of my goals this year is to establish a superintendent's roundtable with the students. So I get the students' perspective and their voice, and so I look forward to bringing them to the table at future board meetings so you can hear the student voice, because their voice is very important to me about their perspective on school and what they think about a lot of issues, not just academics, but what you think about the social world, and what do you think about wearing masks in school, and what do you think about all these different things going on. So I will definitely be bringing them forward to future board meetings and having them talk to you about the things that we talk about at the superintendent's roundtable. So.
Anything else from your end, Superintendent Bernal?
Was it?
All right, thank you for that update. Our next report is the English Language Learner State Report, and that'll be presented by Scott Whitbeck, our School Improvement Director.
Yep, and Scott is out tonight, so actually I'm going to present this part. So I'll just read to you just the summary of what the English Learner Report is. So the ORS 327.016 directs the Oregon Department of Education to prepare an annual report on English Learner Program funding and student outcomes. This report's intention is to describe the population of English learners in Oregon and provide a summary of district and state progress towards meeting their needs and objectives. This report is also available on the ODE website, and any member of the public can contact the Government Relations and External Affairs Director to request a copy of this report. And so the purpose of bringing it forward is we're required, one, to publicly share the report at a board meeting, so we have it here, and also publicly state that it's available on our website, and it is posted on our website, so people can see it on our website. And also on the website is a link to where people can address the ODE if they have questions directly about the report. In the report is not anything about our district specifically. This is about the English learners as a whole and how they're doing as a whole in the state of Oregon. Okay, so that's what this is. And annually, we're supposed to report just annually that this report is available for the public to review.
Thank you for that. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll move on to our next report from our Chief Financial Officer, Kara Flath.
Hi, Mr. Chairman and the committee, board members. How are you? I included in your financial report some information. Now, I want to mind you, this isn't final information for last fiscal year, and we're still working on building next fiscal year. There's not a lot of data, so you don't have fiscal year 2021-22 yet. But at the current point, our current ending general fund balance is $168,000, and that is not a lot, but don't panic. Remember, we are adjusting up the revenue cycle, so all the revenue collected in the same year. So there's actually only 11 revenue payments collected next year. There will be 12. Normally there's 12, so there'll be a note, disclaimer in our audit when it comes out, and that won't be a bad thing. It'll just be reference point. We are anticipating another $240,000 from tax collections. They've still been coming in pretty slowly, so I'm hoping to meet with, I've been asking the county to meet, so I'm hoping that we can connect soon. So with that, it should continue to grow at about $400,000, which is almost about where we started the year with our fund balance was $468,000. So it's pretty close to similar even with that 1 month change. And granted, we did have ESSER 1 funds this year that did help support the budget with some other grant funds as well. Next, I included for kicks and giggles the expenditures by funding type. I included it both by expenditures and revenue. And after I put it together, it's not incredibly intuitive because you spend what you collect. So the good news is they line up very similarly. It doesn't add a lot of value having both, but they're, just in case you're curious, we have 76% of our expenditures are general fund so far this year. I did want to report on, and this is the only enrollment discussion we'll have, is on our summer school and enrichment program participants and how that looked. Remember, we had the state funds, which had to be 25% matched with what we're using in ESSER 3. The academic enrichment for grades 9 through 12 had 128 students. They did have 112 in person and 16 remote, but I did also include students were able to earn 135.5 credits with summer school, so that's pretty fantastic. K through 8, we had summer school and an academic enrichment program. So for summer school, for K through 5, there was 112 students. 6 through 8, middle school, there were 33, for a total of 145 students for summer school in the K through 8 program. We also had the 2-week enrichment camp at the Discovery Center that we had capped it at 50 enrolled students. The average daily attendance, I think, ended up being about 40, 45 or so. It ebbed and flowed. We would hope to sustain that, but 50 was probably a pretty lofty goal for the amount of space and staff they had, but it was a pretty great program. We also had, with the ESD, the K through 8 migrant education program. They had a total of 201 students. And just to note, that was split funded between the district and Title III funds, which is normally an ongoing thing with Title III. But we also added with our summer funds, and also will be augmented with our student investment account, our Native American summer program that was also run by the ESD, that they only were able to work in 3 days this year, and it was the first year for that program, and the ESD could speak way more to that, but it sounds like it was pretty successful, but they had a total of 9 students attend. We did also receive the state's, well, a grant for the state school child care money. We weren't able to use that because of staffing issues, so weren't able to tap into that source, unfortunately. So I just wanted to keep giving you a recap on all the federal pandemic funds that we received. So the CARES Act, that's been fully expended this year, $760,000. Majority of that was spent on staffing, but we also shared a portion with our 2 charter schools and the private school, St. Mary's. We had the CARES Act, which was also shared with the private school and both of our charter schools, and that was $166,000 that had to be long since spent, and that was primarily driven for technology and distance learning. We also have ESSER 3, which that money goes through 9/30 of 2023, so still another 2 years on that funding. We did spend almost $550,000 in that fund. Majority of that was for health and safety items for the schools and set up ventilation, those kind of things. So that leaves a balance of $2.4 million in this next year. That funding pot is also shared with both of our charter schools, just FYI. We do have the ESSER 3 funds. That needs to be used by 2024, so it still has another 3 years on that. That is also the one with the 20% learning loss. Unfinished learning is what Oregon's calling that, so I'll update that. But it also has a charter schools allocation. This is also the one where districts are required to have a plan. It was initially supposed to be completed in August, but they have extended it to October. It includes our 2 charter schools. They also have to have a plan with a 20% unfinished learning plan, so we're working with our charter schools to come up with that. There was a small portion of that spent last year, and we're still closing the books, but for the summer programs, that 25% that was matched for state funds comes out of that. And if any, I'm still collecting any feedback or comments on ideas or thoughts around the ESSER 3 funds. Part of the federal requirement is to continue to collect that. So I always welcome emails, calls, or anything from you folks or public. And that kind of concludes it. Any questions?
Any board members have questions? Director Thistlethwaite?
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm waiting for my mic to be turned on. I don't have a question, but I just wanted to give kudos to the district for quickly pulling off all of their summer school programming and what a huge impact it had on our community. I mean, those numbers are very impressive. The amount of credit recovery that happened at the high school is fantastic. And then I just want to appreciate all of the staff who are willing to forego a good chunk of their summer to come in and teach our kiddos. I know you really needed a nice long summer break after this last year, and you chose to stick with our kids and help them out. So just wanted to appreciate everyone who was involved in those programs. Thank you.
Director Rasmussen.
I think I got called. Can you guys hear me? Hopefully you can hear me. I was going to say I appreciate the sheer amount of financial information that's been coming through. Kara's doing a great job. I really appreciate having all this information because before it was rather very top leveled, and this is a little bit more in depth and meaty, and I really appreciate that type of transparency. So thank you very much for these reports.
Any other board questions or comments? Director Stevens?
Who put together the Discovery Center Summer School Learning with Science?
There was a volunteer science instructor there, and I had his name because you had mentioned how good he was, and I passed it on. He's a volunteer instructor that comes back to the Discovery Center every year, and I don't know his name, but I can get it for you. Yeah, I heard it was pretty great.
I got to spend a day there and just walk through, and there were 47 students there. They did tell me they had 50 originally sign up, but if you had to drop off, and they're looking to expand this program for next year, is that right?
What we're hoping to accomplish collaboratively is at least to maintain it. 47, even 50 was a lot of students at one time for either that or grow the staff, because it was very limited staff. If you saw the Discovery Center had a couple people, and then they had volunteers come in from the Forest Service, which was fantastic. And then 2 coordinators that ran it. So we're hoping to sustain it. It was a successful program, I think.
I want to thank you for helping to put that program together. I know you kind of worked out of your purview, at least I assume you did, to allocate the funds, find the funds to make that happen. It was incredibly impactful. I got to see the types of students that were there from all different socioeconomic backgrounds, and some were really limited, and I got to speak to some of them, and I just want you to know that they were very thankful to have that program and to have that science teacher. I'm sorry, I forgot his name, but he's here from New Mexico. He said moved to the Dalles and worked on a reservation for his whole career. And people I don't think understand the role you played in it. I do. I've been telling people, and whatever you need to help keep that going, please talk to us, make a presentation, because I got to see the kids there who didn't really have an eye for science or a knack for it, and they expressed to me their newfound passion for it. So thank you very much for doing that and helping to inspire kids when you probably didn't realize you were even doing it.
I appreciate that, and that's great. And I will also pass that on to the Discovery Center because they did a fabulous job. Thank you.
Any other comments? I also wanted to echo some of the other comments and just a kudos on the massive effort that went on this past summer, providing various programs. I think that was a huge lift, and I think it was well received and much needed for some families. So thank you to everyone that was involved in those programs. Again, I acknowledge it was a huge, massive lift, but I just appreciate everyone's time and effort that went into those programs. Aside from that, I did have I know you're soliciting feedback on the ESSER 3, and I know that most of the ESSER money has had just specific uses or restrictions to it. So you just generally say what those are, or just I say that because I don't want someone to think that we're able to utilize funds for, say, football jerseys or something. So what is the target or the intention of these funds, just so that our community knows, what are the abilities that we have for these monies.
Sure, and that's a great question. And, all in all of the ESSER pots of money are to be tied back to some sort of pandemic-related instance. And some of that can be, revenue loss, which is partly what we're using to sustain our budget this year with the decreased enrollment, which is why I keep saying this year is is a pivotal year for a lot of schools across the state. But having said that, that is definitely a large one. And in addition, the 6.9 million, 20% of that has to be dedicated to how are we going to recover from all the learning loss, which isn't expanding what we're doing now, it's growing what we're doing. So that's going to take some methodical work, and that is a big chunk of change within that. And aside from that, it also anything specifically related to the ventilation and the safety of the building and keeping health and safety of both staff and students, which we've put some investment in. It's not enough for us to redo all the ventilation in our buildings. We could if $6 million would even touch that, but as it won't. But primarily things that relate to pandemic related, that's supposed to be the fundamental background. And so if anybody does have thoughts or ideas, I'd certainly still welcome them. There's been some great ideas, and there's lots of organizations out there that are plugging for, hey, guess what? This money gives you X amount per student, and of that, you should spend X amount on this or this. And it's very, that's a very specific approach, but there is flexibility still. So I would take ideas and thoughts, but certainly focusing on learning loss and recovery and health and safety are big tickets. Thank you.
All right, any other comments, questions? All right, thank you so much, Carol. I just think she left her hand on. Director Rasmussen, are you wanting to speak or? No, okay. All right. No, thank you for that. Next on our reports, Board Attorney, Mr. Corey. Anything on your end?
Just a reminder to mainly the administration and staff that the school will result in the inevitable issuance of subpoenas to staff and teachers and support staff. If that happens, just a reminder to let them know to avoid removal of school district employees from their needed tasks for those, or try to address it in the most efficient way possible. That's all I have.
All right, thank you for that great reminder as we head into the new school year. Next item on the agenda is our discussion and action items, and first is the approval of the Riverbend Community School Charter Agreement as recommended. And Superintendent Bernal?
Yes, thank you. So we are recommending the approval of the Riverbend Community School Charter Agreement for the term of September 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024. Kara, Brian, Amy, and I met with Dr. Shaw and her CFO to review the charter agreement earlier this month. We made only some slight amendments to a couple sections. One was some nutritional language. One was adding the ability for the district and charter school to adjust the appropriated funds. That was on page 19. And then added just some financial reporting due dates on page 20. All of those things were agreed to as amended. And so we are recommending the approval tonight.
Thank you for that summary. Any comments, questions from the board? Director Thistlethwaite?
Yeah. Is Dr. Shaw available to take questions, or is she not around? She's not. Okay. Well, maybe Dr. Bernal can answer them for me. So just a couple of things in their in their last plan that they presented, there seemed to be a lack of math instruction. They don't have a faculty member teaching math at all. It sounds like it's all being done through Acellus. And I wondered what their plan was to actually address math instruction going forward.
That's a great question. I don't have an answer to that, but I can get it from Dr. Shaw.
Okay, I thought they were going to be there tonight. That's unfortunate that they can't answer questions.
I didn't know. Go ahead.
Secondly, is she still talking? My second question was related to their fundraising in their budget. You know, they've not done fundraising before, and now they're looking to raise like 10,000 the first year, 15, and then 20 in their third year. And I just wondered what their plan was for that, because it's a brand new area for them to do fundraising. And then my third question was in their second year of their 3-year plan, they're showing about $100,000 of their overall budget coming from a USCA farm to school grant. My understanding is those grant funds are largely pass-through dollars to pay for school meals and to buy local ingredients. And so I was a little concerned that that was part of their operational budget. And I also wondered if that was a secured grant or if that's just one they're going to apply for. So those are my 3 questions: math, fundraising, and the farm to school grant.
Gotta coordinate that better. This is Kara. Let me help you with a little bit of that. We did discuss the increased fundraising that they would have to do, and they have some plans for some events. They do understand that they do have some massive plans they need to implement. As far as the grants, they are not grants they've received yet. They are applying for, so they're anticipating that. One of the discussions, because ongoing concern for their financial stability has been one of my discussion points with them. And we have looked at and reviewed, in order to sustain themselves, you know, what would need to change. And the long story short is the enrollment would have to increase. That is the bottom line to their plight right now. So we kind of looked at early math, and based on what ODE is saying charter schools are funded at right now, which we know changes as the year goes on, would be about 36 or 37 students. I know right now, as of July 14th, they're at 33. And so they were very optimistic in their ability to increase enrollment because of the changes that they've made. And so we did have a lot of frank discussions that the sustainability is going to hinge on enrollment. So I encourage them that certainly they need to work on fundraisers and doing some of that. But like you pointed out, that's a big change from what they're doing. However, you know, enrollment would be one way they could increase that, and that is definitely a focus area that they've been working on. But yes, some of those grants we did discuss, and you are correct, some of them are passed through and aren't allowed to be used for certain ways, and there might be some other ways they can strategically do that with bringing in different kinds of teachers and things like that. So I know they have some ideas in that end, but it really does pivot on their enrollment counts.
Thank you, Kara. Any other questions or comments from the board? Director Nelson?
I had a hard time hearing you, so I had questions about whether their budget was a responsible one in terms of being able to support their operations for the duration of this contract. And so I am especially interested in are you convinced that they can do this? And some assurance that this budget will work. And I'm particularly concerned about their ability to raise money and where the assured funds are coming from that those will be adequate. And I know that they were under enrollment, and so I still haven't heard very much about what they've done to improve that. And so stuff like that, I'm concerned about that as a board member. I know that that is really the essence of their contract, that's what has been the problem, that they have to create a budget and expenditures that will be able to pay, and that's been a concern. That is the main concern that I have. Their operation as a school and what they do with the kids, I have no question about that. I support that. But it's their ability to pay their own way. That's what concerns me. So I just need a lot of assurance from you that you looked at all of that and you're confident that they do have that.
Those are all good questions. And we did sit down and have a lot of conversations, and it really comes down to their plan to increase enrollment. And what they have done, especially since the end of December, is a lot of door-to-door promotions. They've done radio ads. They've also done some, you'll see in yards there, the Riverbend Community School. They've done some rebranding. So their enrollment is up to 33, where at some points it was down to 24 and 25. And I think we've talked, the statutory limit is 25 for keeping a charter school going. So we did have conversations with them when they dipped that low. And I can't speak to how much their enrollment will increase. I know they get a few more that sign up and then a few more that leave, or whatever comes and goes, right? So to sustain that has to get closer to the 40 mark than the 30 mark. And that will be the pivotal moment for them. And the work they've been doing, I know they've been working hard to get that enrollment up, and they're optimistic. Without the enrollment going up, I would have some very serious ongoing concerns that it would be sustainable, because as you guys know, we do have a 3-year payment plan with them. So we are supporting them moving forward. They do have to pay that back to the district, but we also hope to see their success because of that 3-year payment plan. So it all does really hinge on getting that enrollment up and how they're going strategically about that. And I know they are actively working on it.
So the last year, I think they had more staff members than they could really support. So have they made any cuts there to that, or have they adequately addressed their abilities to support the staff that they have?
They have cut staff. Now, we did sit and talk about some of the staffing that they had, and I think 1.5 of those were grant funded from another, not a grant given directly to them, but a benefit they received, and I can't remember specifically what that was. But they did end up cutting 1 teacher, which may be why they have a math shortage as well. I'm not exactly sure there, but they did end up cutting back teachers. So I think they are down to 2 teachers, and Stacy also teaches the classes.
Okay. So I did notice that you made some additions, periodic reports. So that's new, and I really support that they have to give more supports and more frequently. So I really appreciate that was done. And I guess that was it. So thank you for that, Kara.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Go ahead, Superintendent Bernal.
And Board Member Thistlewaite, I will come back to you with those answers on the math. I actually will be visiting, I was supposed to visit Riverbend actually 2 weeks ago, but my visit got canceled. So I will be visiting them in September, and I will come back to you with those answers on the math.
All right, any other, Director Stevens?
So it's my understanding through the agenda in the packet that we will be possibly voting on a yes or no for a 3-year contract, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. That is correct, yes.
If their numbers fall below this, below this projected 40, 35, 40 that they need in any given year, including this one, let's just say, for example, it happens in this first year that they fall below 35, they get to 30, they drop to 24, what happens then?
If they're not financially viable anymore, then I don't know how they could stay functioning. And if they do not continue to maintain the 25, which will be very difficult for them financially to maintain based on what they have now, they could cut more, but like I said, they have 4 staff. I think they have a business manager and 2 teachers and Stacy, so they have 4 staff. But if they can't continue to sustain that, then there's no way to continue and pay your bills and be ongoing. So then the district would have to reabsorb that.
I'm definitely pro River Bend as far as the stories we've heard, parents writing in. We have some personal stories here on the board, but it's definitely a concern of mine. I've only been on the board now for about a month. I think this is already my 5th meeting. And I've done my best to read through all information I can find. Others have done a great job of just trying to help inform me here in the community, the board, yourself, as I'm trying to gather numbers and data to truly be able to understand, to give an informed vote. But I still do have some concerns about their financial viability. So my next question would be, if they fall below this projected number and they're not financially viable, these students that are attending that school now, what would happen to them? I'd just like it to be on the record too, so not only that I know, but anyone watching, listening, or can come back to it, know that their kids aren't just going to be out there floating if Riverbend happens to dissolve.
And we have discussed worst case, if that's a possibility, how could we absorb that? And I know Kurt is here and he can talk more about that, but we do have the Alternative Learning Center at Wetonka, and we also have a contract with Nextdoor Incorporated. And in the event that neither one of those are good places, we could certainly look at what other, Kurt has a plethora of experience in alternative education. I know he has great ideas that they could come up with something, but we do have alternative programs.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
And then more specifically, Director Stevens, Section 11 of the agreement actually talks about those what ifs and kind of outlines kind of what happens in the various scenarios, whether it's enrollment, whether it's financial instability. So it's all within the agreement. So it's known kind of what the kind of requirements are on both parties. And so, I mean, I think with the reporting that Kara has built in, I think that is something that we can definitely keep an eye on and make sure that they continue to be a successful program.
If I can add one comment, it seems like there's hesitation on the 3-year contract. There's not a requirement to have a 3-year contract. So if the board's more comfortable with 2 years or 1 year, we could do that as well. 3 was the maximum we could actually go. So that is just a food for thought for you folks.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Jose, I would like to ask,
Director
should we discuss this option possibly of a 1, 2, or 3-year deal? A 3-year deal is already on the table here, but is this a conversation that we should have?
Yeah, if the board is open for a discussion, just take quick consensus. I'm not seeing any objection, so yeah, we can have that discussion.
Kara, I'll ask you first. Are there any cons to going to a 1-year contract or a 2-year contract as opposed to a 3?
What it would do with a 1-year contract is we'd have to renegotiate in a year, which has pros and cons to it. Other than that, there's no downfall. We've had a good collaborative relationship so far. I don't see any reason we couldn't come to a resolution, assuming everything went well this year.
Director Thistlethwaite.
Yeah, I would just say, as someone who does grant writing and has written grants for Mosier School as well, I know that a lot of grants are 2 and 3 years in length. So for planning purposes, they probably want to have more than 1 year. So just keep that in mind, that some grants are multi-year.
Director Nelson.
Yes, in terms of the contract, I don't particularly see any. I think the contract itself addresses if there's any default in their payments, it addresses that, and so I don't see any disadvantage to the 3-year contract. All I see is advantage there. Would you say that's probably true? I mean, it's easy. It's within our contract to not support the school because of financial instability at any point during those 3 years. I guess that's what I'm getting at. Is that true?
That would be correct, and I would also add they do have to come and provide this board a yearly report of how they're doing and where things are at, because so you will see them next year when they give their annual report.
I haven't looked at this contract, but just taking a look at the financial stability paragraph, it does require that they have their expenses exceed their revenue for 2 consecutive years. So a single year is not enough to, under the terms of this agreement, enough to warrant seeking termination of the charter. So it'd have to be for 2 years that they at least. Sure.
Thank you for that. Director Rasmussen?
I think that,
your audio on.
can you hear me? I think Robbie's working on it. Can you hear me now? Nod your head, Jose, I can't. Can you hear me now? Okay. I think one of the things we should also be cognizant about is what kind of message would we be sending to the students if of Riverbend, if we're only willing to basically back up their education as it stands right now. It's sort of a good faith measure to look at a longer contract versus a year. It expresses a lot of doubt. I mean, I think there's enough mechanisms that have been negotiated by the admin team here in our district with the school that would address any shortfalls. And so I think it would be a good faith effort and gesture to show that we're willing to support the students and have faith in the school to continue their education as they've been engaged in it. Thank you. Does the decision have to be made tonight? Because I feel a little conflicted making this decision without Dr. Shaw being in the room. I'm not sure if she was invited or not, but because we have questions, sure would be nice for her to be able to respond. And I just want to make a fully informed decision. So could we postpone it for a month and invite her to come answer our questions or submit questions to her ahead of time that she can bring to the board next month?
So unfortunately, if you recall, we actually extended this negotiation process by 2 months. So this is the final second month of that extension. And so we do have to have an action tonight as a result. I guess my comment would be, I guess I'm supportive of the longer agreement of 3 years. And I say that, and I think all of us here can appreciate the storm we've been in through this pandemic. It's done a lot of various things to enrollment and other facets of our day-to-day. And I think that the longer term will allow them to weather that storm a little bit. As well, if you guys remember, funding for education is on a biennial basis as well. So it needs to kind of, in my mind, be in alignment with some of those matters. And, you know, I think we have the proper safeguards within the agreement that you guys have built in. And I think that, as Kara has been saying, I mean, it's an ongoing discussion. I think all of us are very supportive of the program. We're definitely wanting to see them thrive. But in order for them to do so, they do have to meet some of these metrics, those being enrollment and financial stability. So I'm personally in favor of the longer or the agreement as proposed and recommended by the administrative staff. Director Rasmussen?
Is this a point where I could make a motion?
Go ahead, Director Rasmussen.
Like, okay, I see your thumb up. Okay, yes, I would like to make a motion to approve the Riverbend Community School Charter Agreement as recommended.
All right, we've got a motion for approval of the Riverbend Community School Charter Agreement, valid from September 1st, 2021 through June 30th of 2024. Do I have a second? Seconded by Director Nelson. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the Riverbend Community Charter or School Charter Agreement, valid from September 1st, 2021 through June 30th of 2024. Any discussion from the board? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye, please. And the chair votes aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I personally don't feel, only being on the board for a month, I simply don't have enough information to make an informed vote one way or the other.
Okay. All right. With 6 in favor, the motion carries. We have 1 abstention. Next on the agenda is another action item. This is readoption of our district calendar for the 2021-2020 school year, or 2022 school year. Superintendent Bernal.
Yes, thank you. So recently, House Bill 2168 was recently signed into law, making June 19th a legal holiday called Juneteenth. So ORS 187.010 is amended to read that Juneteenth on June 19th is now a legal holiday, and school districts are required to be closed on legal holidays. So district staff, we are recommending that the school board approve the revised 21-22 school district calendar to align with that state law. June 19th in 2022 falls on a Sunday, which means the following Monday, the 20th, we will be closed. So that's what this calendar reflects. So it's a revised calendar that we're bringing forward for approval to recognize that as a legal holiday.
All right. Thank you for that explanation. Any comments, or Director Nelson?
My question is, what did you do to the calendar to mitigate the effect of that day? In other words, is there a change somewhere else, or did we have enough latitude to do that?
It doesn't impact the student calendar. It just showing that in June, on June 20th, the district will be closed for business. Yeah. So like the district office will be, like, employees have that day off. We won't be working. It's a legal holiday.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. So employees used to have 12 holidays. They now have 13.
I get it.
Yep. Year round, yeah. But it doesn't impact the student calendar. Students will already be out from school. Yep.
Great. Any other questions or comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this action item. Director Richardson?
I move to approve the revised 2021-2022 school district calendar as recommended.
All right. I've got a second as well from Director Jones. So we've got a motion to approve the revised 2021-2022 school district calendar as recommended. Any discussion regarding the motion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. All right, and the chair votes aye. That passes unanimously. All right, that concludes our agenda. Thank you those that actually stayed for the entire meeting. Got a few in the crowd that stayed with us through the entire meeting. Appreciate you coming out tonight. Appreciate all those that did come and provide public comment. We really appreciate the feedback and engagement. I hope it continues throughout the school year. And with that, guys have a great rest of your night. And